Hey everyone, it's time for another episode of Unexplained Night, and let me tell you, this one is spine-chilling. So last winter I was working outside of Yosemite, and when the season ended, I had about a month to get back up to Oregon for my summer job. I decided to stay near Shasta Lake on my way to the Redwoods, found a surprisingly cheap campsite, and arrived on a Sunday evening. My site was on the edge of a small bluff along a river. The only other people in the campground were a family in an RV, two parents, and two boys riding bikes. I had a couple of beers, made some stir-fry, and then called it a night. When I sleep out in the woods, I usually leave my tailgate and bed topper open so I can stretch out and don't have to worry about condensation. So I woke up at 1:55 a.m. I know this because I always check the time when I wake up to see how much longer I get to sleep. I was so goddamn thirsty that I was frantically trying to fill my water bottle with a 3-gallon water jug. I ended up spilling on myself and my sleeping bag, and I was cursing and causing a ruckus. Just as I got everything cleaned up and was about to turn off my lantern, I heard something that made me freeze. I couldn't tell what I heard because of my own commotion, so I chalked it up to a distant animal. I went to reach for my lantern a second time, and I heard help. I realized this was what I heard the first time. It sounded like an 8-10-year-old boy calling from the river, and I remembered seeing the family in the RV. Without thinking, I pulled on my boots and started to climb out of the bed of my truck to try and help. Then I heard it again. The only way I can describe it is it sounded like an animal calling for help with the voice of a young boy. It didn't sound like an animal call, it didn't sound like a boy. It called help like a boy then, help like an animal call. Every friggin' hair on my body stood up and my gut screamed at me to lock myself in. I slammed my tailgate and topper window. I couldn't lock either from the inside, so I laid there listening. I didn't have a gun, just a hatchet and a buck knife. I laid in the back of my truck for 45 minutes listening to the same repeating call, help like a boy, help like an animal. It never grew closer, it never faded. It just stopped. I've spent a lot of time living in the woods. I've heard mountain lions, bobcats, and rabbits scream. This was not that. I've spent a lot of time searching out the paranormal. I have never felt the overwhelming fear that I felt that night. I know the energy that flowing water can carry, so I stayed at that same site for 2 more nights to see if it was residual. I set an alarm for 1:55 a.m. both nights and never heard a sound. I'd love to hear some thoughts on this experience. I know there's more than one thing this voice could have come from, and I know the first thing I thought it might be. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales from the unexplained. Until next time, stay curious.